that ate pizza multiple times a week, to the point where one day my parents did decide, like, all right, enough is enough. We need to get healthier. We need to, they wanted to lose some weight. And they said, we're not calling the pizza company anymore. And so a couple of weeks went by and the phone rings one night. My parents pick up the phone. They're like, Mr. and Mrs. Davies, are you okay? And they're like, well, yeah, we're fine. What's going on? Well, this is the pizza company. You haven't called us in a while. We wanted to make sure everything was okay. And since you're okay, was it something that we did? Can we send you over a free pie? And when the pizza company is doing a welfare check on you, you know you have issues. And that was us. And so we went, like, whenever we would decide that, yes, we need to eat healthier, we really didn't know what that would look like. So everything with the word diet, fat-free, sugar-free on it, we would start to eat. A lot of processed garbage. Not knowing it, we were essentially like starving ourselves down. Then we wouldn't be able to maintain that lifestyle. And my parents would just go on this roller coaster ride of losing weight and gaining weight and doing it in all the wrong ways. And like I said, I was just over here outworking the bad eating habits because I was just super active. And I was 14. Like, that's the benefit of being 14, right? So as I got a little bit older, I've been competing for several years. And at one of my shows, my family had come to watch the show. They were sitting in the audience. I went out to see them to say hi. I sat down next to my dad. I looked at him and I was just like, Daddy, I feel so sorry for you. And he was like, you're my 17-year-old daughter. What do you feel sorry for me for? And at the time he was 47 years old. He was about 100 pounds overweight. He had a host of health issues that were starting to develop because of his weight, but I didn't see any of that. I had actually no clue up until much later in life that my dad was even overweight at that time. What I did see was that he was working himself into the ground every single day, that he was stressed out all the time, that he was doing everything for everybody else and was not taking care of himself. That at some point in his life, he was an athlete and he liked to do all these things. And here I am doing all these things and he's not doing any of it for himself. And that's really where I was coming from, because your kids want you to be healthy and happy just like you want that for them. And so that's where I was coming from. And so he decided right at that moment that by the time he was 50, he was giving himself 3 years, that he wanted to do a bodybuilding show with me. So he gave himself that goal of 3 years. And over the next year, he lost almost all the weight, but he still didn't look like a bodybuilder. He did it in all the ways that he had always done it. He starved himself down. He spent hours in the gym, basically killing himself to lose the weight. And so at the end of the year, he went, but I still don't look like a bodybuilder. Like, what's going on here? And so he realized that he needed a little bit more education on the nutrition side of it. And I always like to point out too, that I needed to learn about nutrition just as bad at this point. And here I am, anybody looking at me at that point would have said, well, she's healthy, she's fit, she's strong. I had the muscle on me. I had the six pack because I was on stage. I would compete like 3 or 4 times a year. And so anybody looking at me would say, she's so healthy and she's so fit. But in actuality, I had cut out all healthy fats out of my diet because I didn't realize that I could eat bad fats, good fats, any kind of fats while I'm trying to lose weight. I was like, oh, I can't have that. I'm trying to get on stage. So I had cut all healthy fats out of my diet. My hormones were a mess. My hair was falling out. My cycle was a wreck. It was my body's way of telling me, like, you are in chaos right now. Like, you are not healthy. And so I needed to learn about nutrition just as bad. Just because you see somebody with a six pack does not mean that they are healthy. You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And for me, it was chaos. So it was just important for him losing the weight to need to learn about nutrition. Me, looking healthy and fit to learn about nutrition. We don't get the, excuse that, oh, that person's skinny or that person's fit and they don't need to eat right. Everybody needs to eat right. Everybody needs to fuel their bodies the right way. Of course, we can have our treats here and there, but overall, we need to make sure we're fueling our bodies the right way. And so we started learning about nutrition together. My mom got involved. She was more into dance. My brother was always a gamer, but he got into strength training. And so we really started making this a whole family thing. And my dad got on stage by the time he was 50. He always says his goal was not to embarrass himself, but he got on stage and he ended up winning the men's over 50 masters division. So he got first place in his division. And I got to go on stage and give him this trophy. And it was just kind of like this cherry on top moment of my family making this transformation together. And then as coaches know, you start sharing your story and people are like, well, what are you doing? We need to do this too. You know, you look happier, you look healthier. I need this in my life. And this was before social media. So we just started helping people by doing workouts in our garage or doing little nutrition classes in my parents' living room. And slowly we started to build what became a business. We've had our gym now together for 9 years. And that's what I do in my day-to-day life when I'm not creating Beachbody programs, is run this gym with my family. And you know, I don't teach athletes. I don't teach celebrities by any means. I just have, you know, the average people that come into my gym that want to lose some weight, gain some muscle, feel more confident about themselves. Like, that's who I train. And so in 2016, I got the opportunity to work with Beachbody by winning the reality show called The 20s, which is still on BOD if you guys want to watch it. But that reality show, I have my shirt on that says introvert but willing to talk about fitness today, my favorite shirt. But I am very introverted. If you would have told me a few years ago that I'd be doing calls like this or talking on a stage at Summit or something like that, I would have been like, no. And so when they called me to do the reality show, I said, no. And second time they asked me to do the reality show, I said, no. And they said, but it's for Beachbody. And I said, I don't know what that is, and I don't want to do it. So third time's a charm, they asked me again. And finally I was just like, here's the videos that you wanted me to submit for like the casting. I was like, but they're not going to give me a call back, so I don't have to worry about it. And then I got a call back. And up until this moment as a trainer, then I started like researching, okay, what is Beachbody? What am I getting myself into? And at the time, as a trainer for many years at this point, I kind of had a lot of misconception about what an online fitness company would look like, about what Shakeology would be, about what these workout programs were going to look like, about what the nutrition programs that were backing this was going to look like. I pretty much thought that they were trying to like starve people down and work them out all day and night. I didn't know that there was modifiers or many other programs available for all different levels and you know, things like that. I had no idea. And so through the process of the 20s, like all those barriers started crumbling. And I realized that this was really the company that I needed, my family needed when we were getting started, when we were, you know, trying not to order from the pizza company so often, and we were trying to make healthier choices and we didn't know what to do. This is the company that we needed back then. And so it went from kind of like, I don't know what this is and I don't want to do it, to I have to do it. I have to come out of my shell. I have to, you know, take this chance and see what happens. And I cannot imagine what things would be like if I hadn't. But then we got to create Clean Week, which was really to introduce people into all things Beachbody, just like I needed to be introduced into Beachbody. And then from there, I just kind of always in the back of my mind said, okay, well, I love Clean Week for what it is and what it's for and who it's for, but I have my program in mind. And if there's two things that, you know, I make sure that not only is in my training, but in my clients' training, I'm like, we're lifting heavy and we're moving fast. And want to put those two things together and make my own program. So I kind of already had the nuts and bolts for a long time about what this program would look like. And finally, over the last year, we've kind of been putting those pieces together. Carl challenged me to put it to music, which I had never taught anything to music in my life before. I barely listened to music before this program while I worked out. And I think it adds an incredible layer to working out, like the intensity, the just fun of it. It goes by so fast too. And it keeps you honest with your rest time. Like the beat's going to start, you better be ready. So it really adds like a whole new element to my training for sure. And so we've created these 2-3-week strength training programs that I want you guys to think about as a 6-week program. And I'll hit again on that in just a moment. But I want want you guys to think of this as a 6-week program. MBFA is a small step up from MBF. I get you prepared through MBF, and then you go into MBFA. It's 5 or 6 more minutes. Ashley will tell you, I was harping on this in the Success Starter test group day in and day out. I'm like, you guys can do 5 or 6 more minutes. And whether that means you're going lighter or taking more rest time, you guys can do 5 or 6 more minutes. And everybody from my test group to the Success Starters, everybody had that apprehension about the word advance and took the next step and was able to do it, was able to do so much more than they thought. No matter their fitness level, experience level, no matter if they had injuries or anything like that, we have the modifiers and they made the program work for them. So you will be able to do that. And I just want to challenge you guys to pick up the heavier dumbbells from what you've normally been using. A lot of people have been asking me, well, how much weight should I have? How much weight should I use? And I know first challenge is finding the dumbbells right now. But if you have the dumbbells available to you, or if you can find heavier dumbbells, if you have been the person that, one of the things that's been driving me crazy is people tell me, well, I have my 5, my 8s, and my 10s, and I've done 5 Beachbody programs by now. And I'm like, done 5 programs and we haven't taken the next step up? Like, I want you guys to take that next step up. So if you're that person that's been using the 5s, 8s, and 10s, great. The next step is I want you to use the 12s. And that doesn't have to be on day 1. That could just be at some point during the program. I want you to, when it's appropriate, start challenging yourself with that next step up, or the 15s, or whatever it is. When it's appropriate, I want you to start implementing it into your workout. And the biggest thing is I do not want you to be afraid of failure. I do not want you to feel like, well, I picked up those heavier dumbbells, but you told me to get 8 reps and I only got 6 reps. Great. I'm so excited about that. You now know what that upper limit is, but if you use your 10s day after day after day and you don't challenge your body and you don't know what that upper level is, a lot of people found that their upper level was like 20 pounds instead of 10 pounds. So you guys will see that you're going to be able to do so much more than you thought of. Always, always form first, control first. But as long as you have that form, I want you to challenge yourself with how much weight you're picking up or how fast you're moving or something like that as you're going through this program. So that's my challenge to you guys, is just that next pair of dumbbells from what you're used to using. And then lastly, I'm going to share a little bit of a story with you, and then I'll dive into the questions at the bottom. So I wanted to share the story of Linda. We call her LL. And surprisingly, actually, I didn't realize she had become a coach, and she was in my last call. And so I told this whole story about her, and then they're like, she's on the call. So Linda had come into my test group back in February when it was a live test group before quarantine and COVID hit. And then everybody had to go home, and I had to start filming from my living room. But before that, she had to audition for this live test group that was out in LA. She came in on day 1 as somebody who needed to lose over 100 pounds. And when she came in, she had a lot of other plus size women with her. And she looked around and said, all right, this is clearly for plus size people. I'm in the right place. This is going to be great. When she walked in for day 1 of the workout and walked into this room full of people that she says looked very fit. And I'm like, there was all ages, shapes, and sizes in that room, but she didn't see anybody that reflected her. So she did not feel comfortable. And I saw that on her face, and immediately was kind of like, all right, like, here's the modifiers you're going to need for the entire workout. You'll have them up front, so you don't even have to wonder about what's happening or be worried about asking me. Here's the modifiers. Here's everything you need. And she would later tell me, I pretty much only stayed that first week because they made me sign a contract. They said, you will show up for these workouts, you will follow the meal plan because you took this spot in the test group, like, you need to take this seriously, basically. And so she's like, and I had signed that document. She's like, and something about that made me show up for that week. And then slowly her confidence level started to grow. We had amazing people in that group. So I think as a plus size woman, she was just very concerned about what other people in the room were going to think. Everybody else in the room was dying from the workout. They didn't know what to think about anybody else but themselves. But that's not how she felt at the time. So slowly she started realizing, well, not only is nobody looking at me, but I don't care if anybody is looking at me because I'm here showing up for myself every day. This isn't about anybody else. This is about me. And so our confidence levels started to grow. Now, I told you guys that I wanted you to think of this as a 6-week program because I had created a synergy between the two programs that makes it just like a ramp up as you go along. But at the time that LL started, these were kind of two different programs living off in their own land. I made a lot of changes to the point where they kind of had that synergy. So at first, it kind of would have been people either did MBF or MBFA, and there really wasn't that tie-in together. So she has actually done MBFA more times than she has done MBF. So now I would tell you, I want you to go MBF, MBFA, MBF, MBFA. So even if you're more advanced, I don't want you just cycling MBFA because we prioritize certain moves in MBF that we no longer prioritize in MBFA. So you're going to start missing components if you only do one or the other. So think of this as a 6-week program. We have bonus content to bump up MBF when you get to that second round around. So you're always going to have something to take it up a notch. But I just want to make sure that you guys know that that advanced word is not so scary. She did MBF once, and then for the rest of her 18 weeks, she did MBFA. And obviously she's still continuing as a coach and as a customer and continuing with MBF and MBFA. But in 18 weeks, LL, let me share my screen here. In 18 weeks, LL lost 61 pounds. And so when I hear people getting worried about whether or not they can move into MBFA, I'm like, you can. I think the reason that people are so scared about moving into the next program is they're also scared of modifying. And modifying is not less than. LL will be the first one to tell you. I posted her before and after picture a couple days ago on my Instagram. And I also attached a video that she did that was kind of, telling her story of getting started and encouraging other people to get started. And in that video, she says, like, I modified 75% of MBF, 75% of MBFA. So modifying does not mean you're not going to get results. Modifying means that you're making this program work for you. And whether that's because you've been sedentary or you have an injury or whatever the case may be, you're making the program work for you. So as long as you're pushing yourself to where you're going to start seeing those changes happening, that's amazing. I could have made this entire program based off the modifications and everybody would have been like, man, I'm getting my butt kicked. But instead, I gave you two different options, and all of a sudden our mindset shifts to, well, I only did that program with the modifier, and it becomes a bad thing. Modifying is not a bad thing. Modifying is making it work for you, and I just want you guys to keep that in mind. Yes, we need to be responsible about starting points when it comes to beginners. Lighter weight, less range of motion, maybe even body weight, especially when it comes to that first leg day, especially. So we need to be responsible about our starting point, but if we are responsible, we allow our body that grace time to kind of start building up. Anybody can do both of these programs. Like I said, all ages, shapes, and sizes have been successful here. So I want to make sure that you can, just have that confidence to try the next program, because you are going to be able to tackle it. You are going to be able to do it. And if you need to modify, great. We are not afraid of failure anymore, right? So, with that being said, I would like to answer some of everybody's questions. Because I know you guys have been trying out the program. You know the nuts and bolts of the program. So if I can kind of dive in, and we have a few more minutes than the 30 minutes, if that's okay, because I don't have another call after this, and I know I talked for a while. So we'll answer some questions here.
No, you're good. So Ashley, I'm going to just there's only one question that I saw in the chat thread. And the question was, what is a good weight to start with in terms of dumbbells if you've never used them?
Yeah, and then I would really start with lighter weights. This is also a high volume program. So like I said, if you've never used dumbbells before, then I would even try out that first leg day, just body weight. Like, that's going to be plenty for you. If you're getting full range of motion and using your own weight, that's going to be a lot, and your legs are still going to be sore. And then as you build up, then you can take on those 5s and the 8s and the 10s. So if you are brand new, don't be afraid to go very light in the upper body weight in the lower body, cardio days body weight. And even as you're doing some of those moves like sledgehammers on Saturday on that first week, we use like a very small dumbbell. If that's too much, grab your bod ropes, and have those in your hands, just like we do earlier in the week. Again, make this program work for you and allow yourself that grace time to start building on your starting point is the biggest thing. It doesn't all have to be done on day one. Now I see some more questions coming.
Oh yeah, they're coming in now. I mean, she said she's got extra time and like the questions keep coming. Okay, so what about being creative? Obviously, we know with the situation with the bod ropes, and I know it's how do we be creative? So what would you suggest as it relates to the bod ropes while they're waiting on their orders?
Yep. So first of all, don't wait. All right. Don't tell your groups to wait. The bod ropes add a layer to this program. And as you guys have seen, it takes a little coordination, probably a surprising learning curve to something I think a lot of people say, well, this is going to be too easy if I don't have to hop over the actual rope. But there's a surprising learning curve to bod ropes. They add an incredible layer to the program, but they are not the program, and they are not going to hinder your results. So I want to make sure, first of all, you just get started. Air rope. We did air roping an 80-day obsession with Beachbody, and y'all can't tell me that people didn't get crazy results with 80-day obsession because they didn't have a bod rope. Like, it's just a layer. So, and then other people have been getting really creative. They've had their dog toys, like some like rope dog toys that they've been swinging around. They've used socks with tennis balls at the end of them. Another person used long socks with a red portion container of dried rice that they poured into the sock, and then they tied off the sock and used that. So as creative as you guys want to get, I would say don't use dumbbells because I just imagine it doesn't swing the same way. And I imagine like shoulder impingement and things going on because of using dumbbells. So I wouldn't use dumbbells, but other than that, you guys can get creative with some light things that can swing around. Dish towels are great. But definitely don't let it stop you from getting started. That's the only thing that's going to hinder your results is not getting started. So just start.
Awesome. Okay. Next question is do you have any tips for getting the right flick of the wrist for the bod rope? Because they're kind of whacking themselves with her left hand when she was doing it on week 2.
Yeah. So first of all, it just takes time. It's getting like darker and darker in my house. First of all, it just takes time. So yes, you're going to have some coordination issues there. Thank you. So you're going to have some coordination issues there, but also practice with, just the rope movement, probably before or after your actual workout. So you're not worried about, making sure you're moving. I don't want you to waste time in your workout. So I want you to practice before and after just swinging, making sure they're kind of swinging. They might be on a slight angle, but they're kind of swinging in this, perpendicular motion to the ground. So film yourself or something like that, because I've seen a lot of people also like stirring the pot this way, and then you're going to smack yourself all day long. So you have to make sure that you're out to the side, practice just the hands, then you can start adding in the feet in your actual workout. And so if you kind of break it up in that way where we practice just the hands, or if you're having trouble with the footwork as we get more and more advanced, because the footwork in the cardio circuit days or core circuit days keeps on changing. So if you're having trouble with the footwork, then just do the footwork and then slowly start to piece those two things together, and then you'll be able to do both of them together. So practice kind of separately, then add. And sometimes your left hand just goes rogue, like happens to me too.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so a next question comes from Kayla. Do you recommend doing MBF 2 times before they start MBFA?
Well, right now we're kind of all in the boat of doing some more MBF before we start MBFA. Once you guys kind of get rolling with this and your groups are doing it, it really depends. I mean, we did kind of separate these two programs for a reason. So that way, if somebody is very beginner and just feels more comfortable getting a couple of rounds of MBF done and under their belt before they move on, that's fine. I just also want to make sure that you guys are encouraging your groups to, yes, take that next step at some point. So whether that's, 2 or 3 rounds of MBF before they do MBFA, that's fine with me, as long as we don't just live there. All right. Like I want you guys to take that next step. So at some point, as long as that next step's being taken, then yeah, that's why we kind of split up the programs the way that we did.
Wonderful. Thank you. How heavy are the bod ropes?
I think they're like a half a pound. Like they're weighted, but it's not like a heavy weight. And that's why when I see dumbbells, I'm kind of like too much.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And then, okay, so another question is can I suggest a regular jump rope while they wait on the bod ropes?
Yeah, if they have it, if they're proficient at it, because I certainly don't want somebody tripping so often that now it's taking them an hour to do a 30-minute workout. As long as they're pretty proficient at it and they have the space for it, they can actually use a regular jump rope. The only thing is we do transition between exercises pretty fast, so that might cause somewhat of an issue. But other than that, I'm perfectly happy with the regular jump rope too.
Okay. So these are kind of some good questions. This is a really important one, but where can I get your introvert tank?
It sold out. It was on another fitness person's website, Hannah Eden.
Okay. All right. Okay. So how much more time do we have, Miss Megan?
Like,
Couple minutes?
yeah, 2 more questions.
Okay. 2 more questions. Okay. Ashley, I'll have you scour the 2 questions and you pick which 2 questions that you would like for her to answer.
Okay, so one of the ones that I know I've had my challengers ask me a lot, and I know I've heard you talk about this in a couple places and you brought it up in the test group, is which of the nutrition plans do you recommend between Ultimate Portion Fix and 2B Mindset? And your answer changed my life. So I feel like everyone needs to hear it.
Yeah, so Beachbody doesn't create things that are like, this kind of works, so we'll throw it out there. Like, they test these things. And so when they have 2 different nutrition programs for you guys to pick from, it's because these are legit. All right. And so with this program, it's the first time ever that you get access, as your challengers with their challenge packs get access to both 2B Mindset and UPF. And so I really want you guys to talk to your challenger and see kind of what fits best within their lifestyle. There's nothing worse than you can't fit a square peg in a round hole, or whatever the saying is. And so if you stick somebody into UPF, let's say, and they're more of an emotional eater that has a lot of anxiety built up around food, that is only going to create more anxiety. And so when they maybe do this program, let's say they get through MBF, they get through MBFA, they've been doing UPF, and maybe they even get great results. But by the end of that 6 weeks, they're going to go, whew, thank goodness that was done. That was way too much for me. That did not fit in my lifestyle. And at some point, they're going to let it drop. And especially when it comes to nutrition, every once in a while, we can change up our workouts and things like that. But I want them to have a foundation for what works for them when it comes to nutrition for life. It's not about 6 weeks. It's about longevity and making sure that they're always being able to fuel their body appropriately. So I want them to pick the best thing for them. That person should have been doing 2B Mindset. They have that much anxiety and emotional eating when it comes to food. And at the same time, you're going to have plenty of challengers that come in and say, well, I need to be told what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, how much to eat. And UPF is going to be so much better for them and giving them that structure. So you guys all should have a working knowledge about what program, like what the 2 programs are all about. Watch all of those videos. So that way you can kind of talk to your customers about what they're both about. And then now they can also dive in and kind of see which one's going to work out best for them. But make sure that they pick based on their lifestyle and what's going to work for them, because that's the one that's going to get them best results.
So much. Yes. Okay. I saw a really good one in here about getting dizzy during the workouts. Will you talk about that? And just from a test group standpoint, will you also talk about recover on your feet? Because that was one of the things that I loved from the test group too, that I think could tie into that super well.
Yes. And I need to post about that, because I have a whole little diagram that I draw. So dizziness, and I think I saw that you said you did have a small meal prior. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Make sure also, I know some people, they like to do things to make themselves sweat more, and sweat is your body's way of cooling down. So just we don't need to be wearing more clothes in order to sweat more. And in fact, when your body is cool and comfortable as much as it can be during a workout, that's when you can lift heavier and move faster and actually burn more calories. So don't be so concerned about how much you're sweating. Sweat is great, but it's not how we lose fat. So that's the first thing. And then if it continues and you're hydrated and all those good things, maybe try hydrate in your water as you're working out, just so you're replacing some of those electrolytes. But if it continues, I would go to your doctor. I actually had the same problem last year. And I had like an inner ear thing going on. So I would go to your doctor definitely if it continues. And also we talked a lot in the test group and the success starters about recovering on your feet, because you will always hear trainers say this. You always hear, if you guys, were athletes when you were younger, you'll hear coaches like, walk it off, walk it off, walk it off. And nobody really explains the reason behind that. And the reason behind that is as your heart pumps out blood to the rest of your body so it can get oxygen and nutrients and all the good things that your muscle needs to continue to work, it travels a long way kind of when it gets down to your legs. So when we're doing cardio, when we're doing leg day, when our heart rate is really elevated, it doesn't just magically work its way back up our legs, back up to our heart. There's a couple of things that keep it going. One is your heart continues to pump and push blood right behind it. But your veins actually have methods of making sure blood goes up in the right direction. They have these little valves in them that make sure blood only travels one way. They have little muscles around them that can squeeze to make blood travel the right way. But those are both kind of small ways that our body can do that, more so used for when our body is at rest, to make sure that we always have that blood traveling in the right direction. When our heart rate is up very high, our biggest line of defense is when our bigger muscles in our legs are working, because as those muscles are contracting, they're pushing against the veins, they're helping that contraction happen, and they're pushing blood up into the right direction. So you're actually helping your circulation and your heart rate by continuing to move your legs a little bit as your heart rate's elevated until your heart rate starts coming down. So if you do things like, you get to the end of the workout and you just collapse on the floor, or you sit down, you're taking your biggest line of defense for recovery away from your body. So you always want to make sure after your workout is done that you walk around, that you keep your legs moving, so that even though it's going against everything your brain is telling you to do, it's actually helping your recovery process. You'll get your heart rate down a lot faster. Then you can stretch and sit and do whatever you want to do. But we also want to make sure that our legs are still working and I see some nurses in here, but you want to make sure your legs are still working as you are cooling down. So always stay on your feet. That's why I say recover on your feet, recover on your feet, recover on your feet.
Wonderful. Well, listen, Megan, thank you so very much, obviously, for taking the time tonight to just share your insights with this team. And Ashley and team, congratulations for being on this call, right? I mean, this is such a special occasion for this to happen, for you just to have Megan all to yourselves. How incredible is that? So in terms of a call to action, here's what I would ask of all of you, is to commit to MBF. Don't wait till, if you haven't started yet, start tomorrow. If you don't have a bod rope, who cares? Move, do something. I think that's the most important thing, is take action. And only you are going to ultimately make that decision and make that call. But she's got a lot of awesome programming. The music is fantastic. Listen, start tomorrow if you haven't started yet. That would be my challenge to you for sure. Don't overthink it, just do it, right? And so with that being said, again, Ashley, all of you, your team, congratulations for this call. Megan, you're amazing, girlfriend. Appreciate your time. And for the rest of you, listen, have the most amazing night tonight.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.